Welcome, art enthusiasts, to another episode of.
The colorful whispers.
Today, we're embarking on a journey into the world of Neoclassicism. It's your favorite host, Elijah Mandin, joined by my ever insightful co host, Mandin Lim. We are also very fortunate and blessed today to be joined by two very busy and accomplished men in their respective fields, Timothy Palermo, a keen historian, and Jan Catingub, an art critic. Hi, guys.
Hello, guys.
Okay, so Cham, could you give our listeners a tantalizing taste of what Neoclassicism is all about?
Absolutely, Elijah. In the ever-evolving world of art, movements emerge as a response to their cultural, social, and even political shift of their time. One such movement that left an indelible mark on the canvas of history is Neoclassicism. But to truly understand its significance, we must first delve into the era that preceded it. So now, we have here our guest, Timothy, who will guide us through the events that transpired that led artists to discover Neoclassicism, or should I say, rediscover their art style.
Thank you, Charmaine. They say Neoclassicism was a child of the Age of Reason. As the Enlightenment swept across Europe, intellectuals and artists alike began to seek a return to the classical ideas.
Enlightenment?
Yes, the Enlightenment. So they say Neoclassicism was actually constituted of the basic aesthetic theory of the Enlightenment.
Right. Now that you have said that, I remember an article that I have read before about how the Enlightenment aimed to illuminate the world with science and reason. It's interesting to think, about how scientific revolution during those times were one of the influences that brought about Neoclassicism.
That's exactly right. But it's not just because of that. So let's backtrack a bit. The late 17th and 18th centuries were dominated by the opulence of the Rococo style. They used intricate ornamentation, they used pastel colors, and they focused on the whimsical and the light-hearted. However, neoclassical artists rejected the frivolity of the Rococo in favor of a deeper, more meaningful purpose. And, like you said, the political revolutions and social upheavals of their time also contributed. Because of this, they wanted to a return to stability and a return for timeless values. They wanted to explore art beyond the aesthetic.
So the reason they started a new art movement was not just because of mere stylistic choice, but more like a reflection of the values and ideals of the era, right?
Yes, that's right. It was like a battleground for ideologies. So they wanted to move forward by looking back.
A battle of brushstrokes. I like that. Now let's, globetrot a bit, but before doing so, allow me to properly introduce a very particular art critic who has been, fairly quiet thus far. Welcome to the show, Jan.
Thank you guys for having me.
Okay, so Jan, after hearing what Timothy has said about neoclassicism, I was wondering, how does neoclassicism vary among the different corners of the world?
So, Neoclassicism was indeed a traveling movement that spanned across countries and even continents. In France, the country most affected by the neoclassical movement, it got all revolutionary.
So what about France?
So, we have maestros like Jacques-Louis David, who through his art became a powerful visual representation of the Enlightenment ideals that fueled the revolution, encouraging a sense of civic duty and promoting the overthrow of oppressive monarchies. So his iconic imagery helped to shape the ideological narrative of the time, making him a symbol of neoclassical inspiration for the French Revolution.
Oh, okay, thank you. So are there other countries that were influenced by neoclassic?
So another example is Britain, where neoclassicism was like a sophisticated and classical suit with a focus on harmony, simplicity, proportion, and symmetry. It was more of a discipline, more restrained and aristocratic. In Italy, the birthplace of neoclassicism, marked by the rediscovery of Pompeii, it was also a remanifestation of classic ideals, especially the old Greco-Roman paradigms. Oh, and don't forget the old United States, a non-European country still washed away by the reminiscent and nostalgic movement, where neoclassicism became the architectural anthem of a new democracy and laid the foundations of many governmental buildings, one of which was the White House.
Really? I didn't know about that. Thanks for mentioning the country's short history about neoclassicism. But how do we actually, identify neoclassical art? I mean, what are their characteristics and perhaps some examples, John?
So from the name itself, neoclassical with neo meaning new, we can also refer to this movement as the new classic. It is a revival of the classic Greek and Roman art of sorts, and this is further shown in the numerous nostalgic and retro works of that era. It is also worth noting that Neo-Classicism arose partly as a reaction against the frivolous decorative Rococo style, and just as Tim said, artists of the neoclassical era rejected this idea. And one example of which is The Oath of the Horatii by Jacques Louis David.
I've heard of that before. It was about the three Horatii brothers preparing for war. However, in order to evade or avoid a full-scale war, these three Roman brothers were selected or elected to battle against another three brothers from the neighboring city, Alba.
Exactly. In the painting, we can see those three battle-dressed brothers extending their right arms towards their father, who in turn also held up three swords as a gesture of allegiance. So the painting was rigorously organized, and it can be seen with the symmetrical and rhythmic application of the background objects, which are the three arcs. These arcs add emphasis to the main action in the foreground by having each arc distinguish each of the main subjects of the painting. So framed by the first arc to the left are the three brothers, in the center arc is the father, and in the third arc are the women. So there's also contrast in the figurization, such as the tense uptight posture of the men against the soft and flowy poses of the women. So this sort of austerity in the organization of the painting, in addition to the dark tones of colors used, are some of the things that differentiate neoclassical art from the Rococo art, which is more light-hearted, vibrant, and perhaps freer in a sense, making it almost the exact opposite of neoclassicism, which rejected it.
Indeed. Despite the neoclassical movement happening just after the Rococo period, no? Or rather in the middle of it, I still find it oddly amazing just how conflicting the principal art defining the two periods were. Perhaps neoclassicism found inspiration in the Rococo and Baroque periods in their shortcomings. Anyhow, is there another example you would care to share with us?
So there is another actually. It is a painting by Jean-Auguste Dominique Ingres titled The Ambassadors of Agamemnon in the Tent of Achilles.
Quite a lengthy name, if you ask me. Even the artist's name is sophisticatedly long.
Indeed. But the title itself already says a lot about the artwork. So just like The Oath of the Horatii, this painting also takes inspiration from Greco-Roman events or narratives, with this more on the ancient Greek side. Specifically, from a scene in Homer's Iliad where Odysseus and other Greek ambassadors were sent by Agamemnon to rejoin the battle against the Trojans. So Angra didn't like mixing numerous colors, which gave these colors a purer hint. There is also the masterful application of lines, which not only add to the distinctness of the background and among the subjects, but also give the humans a more geometric and toned figure. So this practical application of the elements is another distinguishing factor of neoclassicism in contrast to the frivolity of Rococo. The resurgence of the ancient Greeks' obsession with nudity through this painting also gives viewers a breath of fresh air from the conservative and religious artworks from the Baroque movement.
In other words, they want to have a step back from the extravagance of the Baroque and the Rococo. So now, Tim, earlier you said something about moving forward by looking back. What exactly did you mean by that?
So this movement was like a cultural reset button. Neoclassical artists looked to ancient Greeks and Roman art as a source of inspiration. They admired the classical forms, the emphasis on symmetry, the noble simplicity found in sculptures and paintings of that era. Artists desired the stability of the Greek and Roman periods, so they emulated the classical aesthetics of Greece and Rome. By doing so, they aimed to convey a sense of enduring virtue and a moral rectitude.
I'm visualizing it already, but I'm wondering now, like, how did this movement's legacy echo through art's corridors?
Oh, neoclassicism didn't just leave. It threw a party that lasted for nearly a century. It set a stage for academic art, laid the groundwork for romantic rebels, and today, well, artists are still sipping from the neoclassical fountain. The discipline, the order, it's like the OG influencer of the art world. Even in its relatively short period of dominance, its effects still ripple throughout the art world today.
The OG influencer indeed. As we wrap up, Timothy, do you have any final thoughts on the neoclassical everlasting impact?
The movement's emphasis on classical forms and ideals left an enduring legacy. It influenced generations of artists, shaping the course of artistic expression and reminding us that, at times, the key to the future lies in rediscovering the wisdom of the past.
That's quite a poetic way to put it, Tim. And with that, dear listeners, thank you for joining us on this artistic expedition on neoclassicism. Until next time on
Colorful.
Keep Those Creative Flames Burning. Bye.
Guys, thank you.